This video is both going to be a film study look at J.K. Dobbins and Gus Edwards and an ode to two guys that Ravens fans will root for from afar. Myself personally, I wish that things had been able to work out differently for them in Baltimore, especially particularly from the standpoint of injuries for J.K. Dobbins. Gus Edwards had a spectacular 2023 season. He was able to stay healthy and contribute. J.K. was not, really never returned after that ACL injury in 2021 in the preseason. 2022, we saw glimpses of what could be. He's still a very young man, and I think still has a lot of mileage left if everything lower body is healthy. It's interesting to be able to package those guys to move back out with Greg Roman and reunite basically under a different situation in California with the Chargers, Baltimore West, if you will. I'm going to go through the film, start with Gus Edwards, who has the reputation as being a great short yardage back, and those people are not wrong who would characterize him in that way, but I'll tell you what he did in 2023. He made big plays. He made big plays in the pass game. He made big plays in the run game, and oftentimes either made people miss or just ran through people. That is Devon Witherspoon, spectacular rookie corner for the Seahawks, and then Gus is bouncing off of people. There is a lot of burst left with him. I think very agile. He looked extremely adept at reading things on the run last year, whether it was inside zone, whether it was duo, whatever, and then setting up his cuts. He's always been really good at this. Setting up a cut to the right and then bouncing back to the left, isolating himself with a safety, and then Witherspoon, as mentioned before. Only Boye Mafe was able to bring him down. Otherwise, you're probably talking about a house call. Made an incredible play against the Lions. I mean, you have to give credit to Lamar as well. Backed up into their own end zone. Lamar went off script and is able to find Gus to the opposite side. He looked really good in the pass game in 2023. Maybe the receptions weren't there, but certainly the yards per target and yards per catch were. Ken from Film Study Ravens, if you're a Chargers fan and you're listening this long, first of all, thank you. But second of all, Ken from Film Study Ravens, he has some data that he's published often or many times. I'll try to link him up in the description about Gus Edwards' yards per catch, yards per target, being pretty much out of this world from a data standpoint, somewhat due to this play here against the Lions, which I think went for 82 yards, but ended up not getting him into the end zone. For an older back, I think he's 29 at this point, who, again, the reputation is he's a great short yardage back. He was really explosive at times in 2023. Whether it was a gap scheme, whether it was a zone scheme, I think he's an extremely versatile guy. Do I think he's great in pass pro? No, I don't. I don't think he's horrible like other people do, but I don't think he's a great pass pro guy. I think he's very willing. I think he's willing, in fact, to be a lead blocker for other players to carry the football. I think I'll have one example of that a little bit later on. I think he's great at making the first defender miss, whether he's unblocked at the line of scrimmage or has to deal with someone in the backfield. Like you see here, this is week 4. Against the Browns, he will have an unblocked nickel DB, outside leverage to his right. Gus puts his foot in the ground, gets downhill, and runs through contact. Ends up being a 16 or a 17-yard gain. That's what you're going to get if you get a healthy version of Gus Edwards. I'm really interested in what the offense looks like there with Greg Roman in charge. Justin Herbert, I know he had some health issues during the training camp, but this is a guy, Gus Edwards and J.K., both of them, who, if healthy, are very sudden and abrupt and can change the dynamic of the game in one play, one possession, or one drive. 1st and 10 here. This is an 11-yard catch for Gus. This is kind of typical of what you saw at times in 2023. Lamar looking downfield, maybe not finding anything, and then going to Gus quick. I thought the trust was gained quite quickly over the course of 2023 by Lamar in terms of getting the ball to Gus in the pass game. It's an underrated element to his game. Maybe Chargers fans or Chargers content creators have talked about it already. I don't have the time to watch pretty much anyone else's content. But Gus is an underrated guy in the pass game. And then in short yardage, goal line situations, I can't think of anyone else who would be better in the NFL than him. And, of course, most of my time watching film is with the Ravens and now the Lions the last 2 years. You're talking about a guy who seems to always be able to find the right gap on power. Power on 1st and 10 is different than power being run on 3rd and 2, meaning he knows he only needs 2 yards. And so he's willing at times to cut things back into the, quote, wrong gap. The Bengals, a really tough run defense, and Gus, I thought, just bludgeoned them at times in 2023 in short yardage situations. Maybe there are bigger backs than him in the NFL. Maybe there are flashier ones. But for my money, Gus Edwards is, well, I was sad to see him go. As a Ravens fan, even with Derrick Henry coming on board as a free agent, I wish there was an opportunity to keep Gus. I think the Chargers got a good one. And, well, in fact, I think they've got 2. Last one for him, another short yardage situation. Heavy personnel, and another example. He's just got great vision. He's going to cut it back. You got a pulling guard. Linderbaum going down to a knee to seal here. I'm not sure if that was intentional or not. And then the inside linebacker flowing over the top. Gus is able to identify it, cut it back. Brilliant pair of signings to bring him on board and put him and J.K. back together with Greg Roman. Greg Roman trusts them, number one. Greg Roman knows what they can do, number two. He understands the pass pro deficiencies of J.K. Dobbins as well. And I think him and Harbaugh both Jim Harbaugh, that is, want to get J.K. Dobbins and Gus Edwards on track. I think they'll help stabilize the offense. When he was injured and gone for all of 2021 and returned in 2022, it was a sore spot for Ravens fans because he played well when we saw him on the field early, but was clearly somewhat compromised and then sat out, I think, for 7 or 8 weeks and returned. And look, he was the Ravens' best offensive player to finish 2022. If you don't know and you're a Chargers fan, Lamar was injured at the end of 2022 during a road game, a road loss at the Browns, and J.K. just took over 4 games in a row to finish the regular season. And when they faced the Bengals in the wild card round on the road in the playoffs, flat out he was the best player on the field. Even if you get this version of J.K., meaning this level of explosiveness and cutability, you have I think, a high-level back who can score in short yardage situations, who can often make people miss. I think he's underrated in the pass game as well, but not to the extent of Gus from a statistical or data standpoint. But someone who's comfortable catching the ball, getting out in open field, making people miss. And the familiarity with Giro's scheme, I think, is also important. He seems to have a really great understanding on counter schemes. Now, this is like counter power. You've got a kick out and then 2 pullers, which is almost like superpower, some people would call it, or superpower normally has the quarterback as a part of the lead blocking scheme, but he hesitates perfectly, and then he's got the little burst. It's a 7-yard gain, so it's nothing, too substantial, but I think he's really great on zone schemes, and I think he's super smart and aware and able to hesitate and hold for the lead blockers on gap schemes or counter, if you will. Greg Roman knows the versatility that these guys offer, and having them together, well, first of all, it's very unusual for them both to leave the Ravens and go to the Chargers at the same time. This is an example from late 2022. Look, he was simply dominant for 4 weeks. I think he had 2 100-yard games. You can tell that the lack of push-off there with the left leg, basically, this should be a touchdown if this is really J.K. Dobbins at 100%. He would outrun Minkah Fitzpatrick to the pylon. End zone angle, same play. He gutted the Steelers that year twice, in fact, with the run game because of his ability to read the flow and get downhill. I think he gets on top of defenses. I think he gets to the second level on zone schemes, inside zone stuff, quicker than people expect. On gap schemes, it's almost the opposite. So he's a very versatile running back, if you ask me, and stronger than people give him credit for. I hope that you guys, the Chargers, get the healthy version. Well, unless the Ravens end up matched up with the Chargers at some point. But I hope you get the healthy version of J.K. Dobbins and Gus Edwards, because I think you're looking at 2 guys who could easily give you 700-800 yards rushing apiece and really revolutionize that offense. I'm not going to be disparaging at all about Austin Eckler. He put up incredible stats from a fantasy standpoint and impact as well, actual impact. But these 2 guys are just better running backs than Eckler is from a downhill perspective, from a versatility standpoint. They're better running backs from the global set of schemes that Greg Roman is going to use, in my opinion. And they've both got big game experience. Playing with the Ravens, they've played in the playoffs, they played in the AFC North, an incredibly tough division. You have to let me know if you're a Chargers fan, you listen this long, if you agree that these guys can be almost revolutionary for the offense. If you drafted Joe Alt, who's a high-level offensive lineman right now, NFL ready, and these are two guys who at various times have been the best player on the field in a run-centric offense that Greg Roman knows and understands how to coordinate. One of the reasons that I really like J.K. Dobbins and like his story and will root for him so much is the way he reacted after the Ravens lost in the wild card game on the road to the Bengals in 2022. If you don't know, Ravens fans will, and no one wants to hear about it really. We lost because we had the ball inside their 2-yard line and did a QB sneak with Tyler Huntley. And Hubbard takes it to the house, 99-yard fumble return for a touchdown to put them up 24-17. They weren't going to score on the Ravens defense again that night. I think you can tell from just watching the film. But having said that, J.K. Dobbins in the press conference talking to a reporter in the locker room, said, I wanted the ball. I think if I get the ball, we win. Something to that effect. He's right. He's absolutely right. And I think that if the Ravens give him the ball one more time, maybe two, on that night, they win 24-17 and go to Buffalo next week and probably kick the Bills' ass. This is a guy who can impact the game by design. Now, this is a design play. It's a one-man screen. Ricard is going out into the flats as a lead blocker for J.K. to be a secondary or supplementary receiver. Multiple teams do this now. And you've got other typical or regular routes being run by tight ends and receivers. Point is, he can be a part of the design element in the pass game, and then give him 10 or 12 carries over the course of a game and give Gus 12 to 15. The differential there, why Gus would have more, would be short yardage situations, because I think he's almost historic in short yardage situations. Feel free to look up the data if you can find a website that corroborates that or refutes it. I'm looking forward to seeing these guys play. I won't be able to watch the games live. I'll have to watch them later Sunday night because I watch Ravens games and Lions games live and try to report on them with reaction videos. These are two players that I think are near and dear to Ravens fans' hearts. We want to see them succeed. It will be bittersweet. We hope for your sake as Chargers fans that they're both healthy and able to be fully integrated into Greg Roman's offense, because if that happens, look out. The rush game, the rushing attack, and the complementary play-action pass game will just take off in Los Angeles. Appreciate you guys' time, man. If you think other Chargers fans would enjoy this film study breakdown, this look at the potential impact of Gus Edwards and J.K. Dobbins, then please consider grabbing a link to this video, sharing it out on social media to help this content get more reach.